The storm began with a scream, wind so sharp it rattled the windows, of the small cabin where Daniel Crowe was trying to finish his overdue custody paperwork. Lightning split the sky, and in that violent white flash he saw a figure, stumbling along the empty forest road. At first, he thought it was a trick of the storm, until he heard the faintest cry for help. He grabbed his jacket, ignoring the ache in his ribs from a recent construction accident, and ran outside. The woman collapsed against the railing of his porch just as he reached her. Her hair was drenched, her hands trembling, her lips blue. Yet her eyes, dark, steady, held a strange mixture of fear and determination. "Please," she whispered, "my car." Sliding, "I thought I'd die out there." "You're safe now," Daniel said, though the storm thundered loud enough to swallow his words. He lifted her carefully, surprising himself with how light she felt. As he carried her inside, he noticed the way she kept watching him, not with suspicion, but as if studying him. The moment she stepped into the warm glow of his lantern, something about her face struck him as familiar. But he shook it off. He didn't know many people anymore, not since losing custody of his daughter, Lily, 2 years ago after a single accusation of reckless behavior from his ex's lawyer. He had spent every day since trying to prove he wasn't the man the court thought he was. The woman sat near the fire as he wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "I'm Daniel," he said. She hesitated. "Mara?" "Only Mara, no last name." A small alarm flickered in the back of his mind, but he didn't push. He made her tea, ignoring how badly his hands shook from exhaustion. The storm roared like a living thing outside, trees bending, the roof creaking, but inside, the air held an uncanny stillness. "You live alone out here?" Mara asked, her eyes scanning the room, lingering on the half-finished custody forms. "For now," he swallowed. "My daughter. I'm trying to get her back." "Trying?" she repeated softly. "That must be difficult." "It is when the judge thinks you're one mistake away from ruining a child's life." Her expression flickered. Pain, guilt, something he couldn't read. He shrugged it off. "Do you need to call someone, family?" "No," she said quickly, too quickly. "Just need to wait out the storm." Every answer from her felt carved, rehearsed. He didn't know why, but the more he watched her, the more he felt something was being hidden. Yet she didn't feel dangerous, just haunted. Hours passed. The storm seemed never-ending. At one point the lights flickered. Mara flinched violently at the dark. Daniel noticed. "You okay?" "I hate storms," she whispered. "They make everything feel powerless." Something cracked in her voice. Vulnerable but sharp, as if she carried weight far heavier than soaked clothes and a stranded car. He offered her his daughter's old sweater, something he hadn't been able to pack away. Mara held it with aching gentleness before putting it on. She looked almost startled by the warmth. "Thank you," she murmured again. But gratitude wasn't what unsettled him. It was the way she looked around the cabin, slow, thoughtful, absorbing every detail, as if memorizing him, as if judging him. Morning arrived like a mercy. The storm had passed, leaving steam rising from the forest and broken branches scattered like bones. Daniel brewed coffee, while Mara stood by the window staring at the ruined road. "You saved my life," she said, voice soft. "I don't know how to repay you. You don't owe me anything." But when she turned, her eyes held something different, something decisive. And for the first time, Daniel felt a faint twinge of fear. "Daniel," she said quietly, "there's something I need to tell you." Before she could finish, a small voice echoed from the doorway. "Daddy?" Daniel froze. Lily, his daughter, stood there clutching her backpack. She had walked the 4 miles from the foster home again, desperate to see him. He hurried to her, kneeling and pulling her into a trembling embrace. Mara watched them with a look he couldn't decipher. "I told them I wanted to stay with you," Lily whispered. "But they never listen." Daniel's heart cracked. "I'm trying, Lily, I'm trying so hard." Mara exhaled sharply, as if stabbed by something unseen. Then she stepped forward. "Daniel," she said, her voice now carrying authority, cold, unshakable. "I need you to listen to me carefully." He stiffened. "What are you talking about?" "My full name isn't just Mara," she swallowed. "It's Judge Mara Ellington. His blood turned to ice. The judge, the one who had denied him custody, the one who had ruled he was unfit without even looking up from her papers, the one who had the power to decide his future again next month. His knees nearly gave out. He couldn't find words. You were here in my home, and you didn't say anything? I couldn't, she said, her voice trembling with something like remorse. Judges aren't supposed to interact privately with someone involved in a case. I realized who you were too late. Then the storm hit. I had no choice but to stay. Daniel felt the room tilt. Betrayal burned hot in his chest. So what now? He whispered. You going to use this against me? Say I manipulated you? Say I'm even more unstable? No, she said fiercely. No, that's not what I want. But he couldn't believe her. Not after everything. She stepped closer. Daniel, last night I saw how you moved that child's sweater as if it were glass. I saw how you talked about your daughter, not with anger, but with hope. I saw how Lily ran to you this morning, like you were the safest place she knew. Her voice shook. And I saw something the court never does. The truth. Tears stung Daniel's eyes, but he didn't trust them. What truth? That I was wrong. Silence crashed between them harder than the storm. I judged you based on reports, accusations, paperwork, she said. But I never saw you. Not really. I never saw the father who wakes up, every day trying to rebuild his life. She knelt so she was eye level with Lily, and I certainly never saw the child who loves him this fiercely. Lily clung to Daniel tighter. Mara stood. I will recuse myself from your case, but before I do, I'll file a supplemental evaluation noting everything I witnessed here. Your stability, your dedication, your daughter's emotional bond with you, and I will ensure your hearing is reassigned to someone who will see the whole picture, not a cold page of accusations. Daniel could barely breathe. Why? He whispered. Because you saved me, she said, and because last night made me confront the kind of judge I've become, one who forgot what real people look like when they're fighting for their lives. She picked up her coat, pausing at the door. And Daniel, if the world had more fathers like you, my job would be a lot easier. The door opened. Sunlight spilled across the cabin floor. And then she was gone. Daniel held Lily close, feeling the weight that had crushed him. For years, finally shift. Just enough for hope to breathe again. Outside, the storm-washed forest glimmered with the fragile beauty of second chances. And for the first time in forever, Daniel felt like his fate might finally be changing. Chapter 3. The morning after the storm carried a silence so heavy it felt staged, as if the world were holding its breath before revealing something terrible. Daniel paced the cabin, unable to shake the weight pressing down on his ribs and chest. Mara Ellington had left with a promise powerful enough to change everything. Yet promises from judges were just words until they were on paper. Lily sat at the table eating cereal, swinging her feet, humming a tune he recognized from when she was 3. Her voice was small, fragile, a sound Daniel clung to like a lifeline. But even that moment of peace shattered the instant someone knocked on the door. Not a gentle knock, a hard official knock. Daniel felt dread coil through him as he opened the door to 2 uniformed officers. Their boots were still wet with storm mud, and their faces were carved with duty, not sympathy. "Daniel Crow," the taller one said. "We're here to return your daughter to her foster residence." Lily's spoon hit the table. "No," she cried. "I want to stay with Daddy." Daniel's throat tightened painfully. "Officers, please." She came on her own. She's safe here. Just give us some time. But protocol didn't care about storms or love or fear. They stepped inside, gently but firmly urging Lily toward the door. She clung to Daniel, trembling. "They put me in the scary room," she sobbed, "with no windows, and they lock it. I hate it there." Daniel's blood boiled, rage clawing up inside him. A windowless, locked room. That was more than neglect, that was cruelty. The officer's expressions flickered with concern, but authority held them firm. He knelt, cupping Lily's face with both hands. "Listen to me," he whispered. "I'm fighting for you." And someone finally listened to the truth. "The Storm Lady?" Lily asked, sniffling. "Yes," he whispered. She's going to help us." But Lily didn't look convinced. "She looked lonely," she murmured. Daniel barely had time to process that before the officers gently pulled her away. Her screams echoed in his ears long after the SUV disappeared down the broken road. He stood in the doorway shaking, feeling like the ground beneath him had collapsed again. Losing her once had nearly destroyed him. Losing her twice felt like a slow death. Hours later, after 1,000 failed attempts to reach the courthouse, every line down, every signal dead, another knock came. It was off this time, uneven. Daniel rushed to the door and froze when he saw her. Mara Ellington. Her hair was wind-tossed, her coat dusted with road dirt, her eyes burning with something fierce. "You came back," he whispered. "Yes," she said, stepping inside quickly. "Because something happened." "What?" he demanded. She took a long breath. "I requested your full custody records this morning. All of them." "And?" "Daniel, they've been tampered with." His chest tightened. "What do you mean tampered?" "I mean altered," she said sharply. "Edited, rewritten, entire entries replaced, notes from social workers changed, incident reports adjusted, psychological evaluations rewritten." His knees felt weak. "Who would—" She didn't hesitate. "Your ex-wife's attorney, and someone inside Child Services." The room spun around him. "I knew it," he whispered. "I knew something was wrong." "And it gets worse," Mara said. "I found missing reports, notes from Lily's teachers that were never forwarded to court, complaints about her foster home ignored." "Daniel, this isn't negligence. It's a coordinated effort." "Why?" he croaked. She looked at him with deadly seriousness. "Because someone wanted you to lose." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Daniel finally breathed. "What happens now?" "I'm filing an emergency motion to suspend her foster placement," she said, "and a request to remove her immediately from that home." "What you told me about the locked room." She shook her head, fury in her voice. "It's illegal, and it will be investigated." Hope flickered in Daniel's chest, terrified to fully form. "Mara, why are you doing this?" he whispered. She stepped closer, eyes steady. "Because last night you showed me something the courtroom never could. Who you are, and because I have been blind to a system that fails people like you every day." Her next words hit him like a shockwave. "I'm not just helping you fight for Lily," she said. "I'm helping you expose everyone who tried to take her." Daniel stared at her, stunned into silence. Outside, sunlight cut through the last storm clouds.